For a single price monopolist, so a monopolist that has to charge the same price from everyone, we saw how when it decides to sell one more unit, its revenues increase by less than the price they can charge for that unit. That's because they have to charge less on all of the previous units as well. As a result of that, the quantity they settled on producing was below the efficient quantity, not because they wouldn't like to extract more surplus from remaining consumers, but because they can't do so without losing more surplus from the consumers who are paying more. So what if they don't have this constraint of charging the same price from everyone? If a firm is able to charge different prices for essentially the same good, we would say that they can price discriminate. So price discrimination simply means that there's more than one price charged by the same firm for the same good. It could be that they're charging different prices from different people, or they're charging different prices depending on how much you buy, or depending on some version you choose of the product, if that version does not distinguish the products fundamentally. So, suppose that the monopolist did have the option of selling more units at a lower price without lowering the price at which it was selling the earlier units. What would that mean in our graph? Would they stop producing at any point below Q star? Well, no, because as long as we're below Q star, there's always someone willing to pay more for the good than the cost of making it. So the monopolist, if they were able to charge that price without affecting the price on the other units, they would do so. And so in this case, what would happen is that the marginal revenue would now again equal the price, so the inverse demand, just as it did in perfect competition. As a result of that, the quantity that the price discriminating monopolist will set will equal Q star. Now, that means that the firm is charging for each unit exactly the maximum that the consumer is willing to pay. This is true if the monopolist can perfectly price discriminate. So a perfectly price discriminating monopolist is always able to charge exactly the most that the consumer is willing to pay. What that means is that they will be able to capture the full surplus in the market. So all of this will be producer surplus. There will not be consumer surplus because a consumer surplus comes from the difference between the benefit they get from a unit and the price they actually have to pay for it. So if they have to pay the full reservation price, then they'll get zero surplus. So there will be zero consumer surplus. The monopolist, would extract the full surplus in the market, and therefore there will be zero waste. There will be zero deadweight loss. So a perfectly price discriminating monopolist is actually going to produce the efficient quantity. If the monopolist can charge more than a single price, but it can't perfectly price discriminate, then we'll have a situation in between. Perhaps they can charge a lower price from consumers who are not willing to pay PM, but if they're able to do so while preventing these higher reservation price consumers from accessing the lower price, then we'll have a higher quantity produced than in the single price equilibrium. So perhaps we could add this segment. This would be quantity produced and sold at a lower price. If the firm could do so without endangering the price on its other units, then it would increase its surplus by this amount. Even consumer surplus would increase a little bit. and efficiency would be improved because deadweight loss would be reduced. So there are cases of price discrimination that are in between the two extremes. Either way, the ability to price discriminate will reduce inefficiency in the market. However, it may or may not increase consumer surplus. So a perfectly price discriminating monopolist creates zero consumer surplus. A monopolist, the way we've shown here, that can create a lower price version of the good without affecting earlier sales will in fact increase consumer surplus at the same time as increasing their own producer surplus.